All right, so let's dive into Microsoft and their big AI gamble.
Yeah.
You've brought an interesting article. It's from the Motley Fool.
Yeah.
It's about Microsoft's stock and all this money they're spending on AI. And is it going to pay off, or is it going to,
Yeah.
blow up in their face?
Yeah. It's it's interesting because the article highlights kind of this paradox
Okay.
where as of February 23rd, 2025,
Okay.
Microsoft's stock is at a 6-month low.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they're really the leaders when it comes to actually integrating AI into their products.
Yeah.
So you've got this like huge company that's trying to turn this big ship,
Mm-hmm.
a Dow Jones component, no less.
Right.
And then you have all these much smaller, more agile AI-focused companies that are kind of zipping around them.
So are investors are they getting scared or something? Is that why the stock is down?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you have to remember the AI hype cycle in 2023
Yeah.
kind of led a lot of these stocks to run way ahead of their fundamentals.
Oh, okay.
And that included Microsoft. They saw a pretty massive 56.8% increase in 2023.
Wow.
But things have really cooled off considerably since then.
Okay.
They've only grown by about 8.6%.
Okay, so maybe it was due for a correction?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But so what about their actual strategy? Like, how are they approaching AI compared to like an NVIDIA or Meta?
Well, that's the thing. Microsoft is not building a business from scratch around AI, like a lot of these newer players.
Right.
Their approach is more to weave it into the products that hundreds of millions of people are already using every day.
Okay.
So, you think about something like Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
It's positioned as like the UI for AI,
Yeah.
becoming this interface that we use to interact with artificial intelligence.
And I've been using 365 Copilot for my inbox because
Yeah.
it was getting way out of control. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like having this like crazy efficient assistant who knows what I need before I need it.
Yeah,
I really didn't understand how much AI was behind it until I started reading this article.
right.
But it's almost invisible, but it's making a huge difference.
Right, exactly. It's kind of a subtle but powerful approach.
Yeah.
Microsoft is betting that this seamless integration into tools that people are already familiar with,
Yeah.
that's going to be the key to mass adoption.
Okay.
And it's not just 365 Copilot. I mean, you have GitHub Copilot, which helps developers write code faster and with fewer errors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a really big success story for them. It's helped fuel a 50% increase in GitHub's developer community in just 2 years.
Wow.
So you're talking 150 million developers now using their platform.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
And then you've got Azure, which is their cloud platform, which I know has become like a huge battleground in the tech world.
Absolutely. And the article highlights some pretty staggering growth figures for Azure. I mean, overall, it saw 31% year-over-year growth,
Wow.
which is already, significant.
Yeah.
But AI services within Azure have grown even more. It's a whopping 157% increase
Wow.
for that segment.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of momentum behind their efforts with AI, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is all this money they're spending.
Yeah.
This article mentions $80 billion planned for this fiscal year alone.
That's right.
That has to be making some people nervous, right?
It's a bold bet, even for a company with the resources of Microsoft.
Yeah.
And it does raise some legitimate concerns, like can they even sustain this level of spending? Can they maintain their financial health while they're pouring so much money into AI? And maybe even more importantly, are they allocating these funds effectively?
Yeah.
Are they going to see a decent return on this massive investment?
Yeah.
The author even points out that their earnings growth is projected to slow down from 20% in fiscal 2024 to an estimated 11.2% in fiscal 2025.
Yeah, that's a noticeable dip for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you wonder if they're sacrificing short-term profits for this long-term gamble
Right.
that might not pay off. But, I mean, we are talking about Microsoft. They're not really known for overspending, are they?
No, that's a fair point to answer, that we kind of need to take a look at their financial situation carefully.
Okay,
And it's not like they're hurting for cash.
right.
At the end of 2024, they had $71.56 billion in cash equivalents, and short-term investments.
Okay.
And their long-term debt is only $39.72 billion.
Okay, so they're not exactly hurting.
Yeah.
They also spent quite a bit on stock buybacks and dividends last year.
That's right. In fiscal 2024 alone, they bought back $17.25 billion worth of their own stock, and they paid out $21.77 billion in dividends.
So they're making a lot of money.
Yeah,
But if they keep increasing AI spending,
right.
are those things going to be at risk?
Well, that's a key question. There's kind of a potential trade-off here.
Okay.
Microsoft might have to reduce those stock buybacks to free up more cash for AI,
Yeah.
which could then impact their earnings per share growth unless their core business can really pick up the slack.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a balancing act.
Okay, so it seems like they've got the money to handle this increased investment for now,
Yeah.
but it's not a bottomless pit. They're going to have to be careful with how they manage things.
Yeah.
But even if they can afford it, is it the right move strategically?
Right.
Where does all this spending fit into the bigger picture of what's happening in tech?
Well, one of the hottest battlegrounds in tech right now is the cloud computing market.
Okay.
And this is where I think Microsoft's AI investments could have the most significant impact.
Okay.
They're currently the second largest player in this space behind Amazon Web Services,
Mm-hmm.
but they're comfortably ahead of Google Cloud.
Okay, so they're right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
With some tough competition.
Yeah.
How does AI tie into this whole cloud war that's happening?
Well, the demand for cloud computing is only going to increase as AI becomes more sophisticated and data intensive.
Right.
The companies and developers need these really powerful data centers and specialized AI services to run all their applications and workloads.
Okay.
And Microsoft's betting that by offering these superior AI-powered cloud services,
Mm-hmm.
that they can attract more customers and maybe even, grab a bigger slice of this really rapidly growing market.
So it's not just about developing cool AI features for things like 365 or GitHub.
All right.
It's about using AI to kind of get ahead in the cloud,
Exactly.
which is where the real money is.
Right. It's a high-stakes game
Yeah.
with potentially massive rewards.
Yeah.
But there's always a chance that their bets won't pay off or that competitors will outmaneuver them.
Right. That makes sense. It's a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Big potential, but also a chance for a costly mistake.
Right.
So let's say they manage to win this cloud war. What does that mean for their overall business and ultimately for investors who are looking at buying their stock?
Well, that's where this idea of Microsoft as a foundational growth stock gets really interesting.
Hold on, before we get into that, can you just give me like a quick explanation of what that even means?
Yeah.
It sounds very Wall Streety,
It does.
like a blue chip company, but I have a feeling it's a little bit more nuanced than that, right?
Yeah, you're right. It is a bit more than just being a blue chip. It is a bit more than just being a blue chip. The term foundational growth stock kind of suggests that Microsoft has built this really solid and diversified business model
Okay.
that can support sustained growth over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a really strong foundation upon which they can continue to build and expand.
Okay.
And the author seems to believe that Microsoft's AI spending is actually sustainable.
Okay.
This isn't just like a knee-jerk reaction to a hot trend.
Mm-hmm.
They're making calculated investments that align with their long-term vision,
Okay.
which, as we've been talking about, is very much focused on the future of the cloud and AI.
Okay, that makes sense strategically, but what does it mean for like me, an investor?
Yeah.
Should I be reassured by this, or are there still some red flags to watch out for?
Well, the author seems to think that Microsoft is a pretty good buy right now.
Okay.
They point to the company's price-to-earnings ratio, which is currently at 33.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, the PE ratio basically tells you how much investors are willing to pay for each dollar of a company's earnings.
Okay.
A higher PE often suggests that investors are expecting really strong future earnings growth.
So is 33 good or bad? I don't really know how to interpret that number.
Yeah, in Microsoft's case, it's interesting because that PE of 33
Mm-hmm.
is actually in line with their historical average.
Okay.
And this is where it gets kind of interesting. You could argue that the company's growth prospects are much stronger today than they were in the past,
Right.
especially with this big push into AI and cloud computing.
Yeah.
So if their future earnings potential is higher, but their PE is about the same as it's been historically,
Okay.
it suggests that the stock might actually be undervalued right now.
Okay, so the market's not fully pricing in the potential growth that they could see from their AI investments.
Right.
Okay, so from an investor's point of view, are there other factors besides the PE ratio that make Microsoft stock attractive?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the article highlights is their dividend.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of growth-focused tech companies that just reinvest all their earnings back into the business,
Right.
Microsoft actually has a pretty solid track record of consistent dividend growth.
Okay.
They've been increasing their dividend payout for almost 20 years,
Wow.
which is a good sign that they're committed to returning value to shareholders.
So even if the stock doesn't take off right away, I can still benefit from those dividends.
Right, exactly. And the current dividend yield is pretty modest at 0.8%.
Okay.
But, it's a nice little bonus for long-term investors, especially when you combine it with the potential for the stock price to go up down the road.
It's interesting how they seem to be doing both things, appealing to growth investors, but also
Yeah.
people who are looking for more value and income.
Right. And that's kind of what makes them a little bit unique in the tech world.
Yeah.
They have the resources and stability in a mature company,
Yeah.
but they also have the ambition and agility to compete in these rapidly evolving fields
Yeah.
like AI and cloud computing.
It seems to be working for them.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We've looked at their stock, their spending plans, their strategic approach, their financials,
Yeah.
their potential for growth. What does it all mean? What's the takeaway for someone trying to understand all of this?
Well, if you're looking for a company that's not just talking about AI,
Right.
but actually making a really significant commitment to it,
Yeah.
then Microsoft is definitely worth considering.
Okay.
I mean, they're not just dipping their toes in the water. Here they are diving in head first.
Right.
And, their financial strength, their established market position, and their proven ability to adapt, all those things give them a pretty big advantage.
But realistically, there are risks, right? What if this whole AI thing just doesn't pan out the way they're hoping?
Right.
What if some new technology comes along and disrupts everything?
Of course, there's always a risk with any investment.
Yeah.
But I do think this article makes a pretty compelling case for why Microsoft is well-positioned to succeed.
Okay.
They've got a diversified business model, a strong balance sheet, and a clear vision for the future.
Okay, that's reassuring. But, this whole conversation has got me thinking.
Yeah.
If AI is evolving so quickly, is Microsoft doing enough to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
I mean, $80 billion is a lot of money.
It is.
But what if it's not enough?
Right.
What if they need to be bolder, more innovative?
That's a fantastic question, and I think that leads us perfectly into kind of the most crucial takeaway for you from this deep dive.
Okay.
Microsoft's current investments are definitely significant.
Yeah.
But they can't afford to just sit back and relax.
Right.
They need to be thinking about what's next, what's coming over the horizon.
So what should they be focusing on?
Yeah, what are those emerging technologies that could really reshape the world in the next 5, 10, even 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Are they investing enough in areas like quantum computing,
Okay.
which could revolutionize computing power?
Yeah.
What about the metaverse?
Right.
This idea of these interconnected virtual worlds, which some people think will be the next big platform for social interaction, entertainment, even work.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's something totally new that we haven't even thought of yet
Right.
that will completely disrupt everything we know about technology.
That is a lot to think about.
It is.
It's kind of scary, but also exciting at the same time.
Yeah,
I guess that's what makes the tech world so fascinating.
right.
It's always changing, and there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Microsoft and their AI gamble.
Yeah.
Keep those questions coming because the future of technology is definitely unpredictable.
So much to unpack with all of this.
Right.
What does this all mean for the listener at home?
Well, if you're an investor, we've really laid out all the factors that you need to consider.
Yeah.
Microsoft's a powerhouse of a company.
Yeah.
They've got this long history of success,
Mm-hmm.
and they're clearly making these huge bets on AI.
Right.
But are those bets going to pay off in the long run?
Right. And we've talked about their stock performance, which has been kind of just blah lately,
Right.
even though they're making all these advancements with AI. And then there's this massive $80 billion investment they're making in
Yeah.
AI and cloud computing this fiscal year,
Mm-hmm.
which really shows how committed they are to this.
Yeah, it does.
But it could hurt their profits in the short term.
Yeah. And you also have to remember that there's always the risk that someone like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud
Right.
could make even bigger strides in AI.
Right.
And just leapfrog over everything Microsoft's doing.
Or a brand new company comes out of nowhere
Exactly.
and just completely changes the game.
That's right. It's a fast-moving world.
It really is. But, you've also talked about Microsoft's strengths.
Yeah.
They've got a really solid financial position.
Right.
They've got a diversified business model.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always been pretty good at adapting to new technologies.
They have. They've been around for decades.
Yeah.
And they've made it through a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, they don't get knocked down easily.
No, they don't.
So for someone who's thinking about maybe investing in Microsoft, or maybe they're just interested in the future of tech,
Mm-hmm.
what's the most important thing to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you shouldn't just focus on the headlines,
Okay.
about their current AI projects or whether their stock is up or down.
Right.
Take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Consider their overall strategy, their commitment to innovation,
Yeah.
their ability to adapt and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that will really determine whether they succeed in the long run.
It's like we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah.
It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how a company uses that tech
Right.
to make things better, to solve problems and to shape the future.
Yeah, and Microsoft seems to be playing that long game.
Yeah, they're not just jumping on the latest trends.
No, they're not.
It seems like they're setting things up for a future where AI is just a normal part of everything we do,
Right.
how we work, how we learn, even how we experience the world around us.
That's a great way to put it.
And the companies that can figure out how to adapt, how to innovate, and
Yeah.
how to see what's coming next, those are the ones that are going to do really well as all of this keeps changing.
Absolutely.
So here's just something for everyone listening to think about.
Okay.
Given everything we've talked about today, do you think what Microsoft's doing is going to be enough to keep them at the top of this whole AI revolution?
Right.
Or do they need to do even more to stay ahead?
That's the million-dollar question.
It really is.
Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure.
What's that?
It's going to be an exciting ride. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned a few things along the way.